Hello and welcome to Storytime Reddit. Today's story comes from r/MaliciousCompliance, where we find stories of people who perform to the letter but not the spirit of a request. Our story is, we didn't break any laws, sure, go to the authorities. This story took place back in the mid-90s. My wife and I were newly married and our daughter was still an infant. My wife worked in healthcare as a home care nurse, traveling from house to house looking after people. However, after our daughter was born, she did not want a job that put her on the road so much and shifts in the evening. So she applied to be a cleaner at the military base near our community. Two things about our situation that are noteworthy. One is that my wife is a visible minority, and second, as a healthcare worker, she logs everything as a force of habit. The company that hired her was a national company. The base office usually had 5 employees. One had recently quit because her husband was moving with his military job to another part of the country. So the local boss hired my wife to replace her. The 4 other workers were tight. Louise was the boss, who hired her best friend, Donna, Donna's brother, Dan, and Louise's niece, Tracy. My wife was a true outsider. She immediately saw things were not quite on the level. Even though my wife was paid from 4 p.m. to midnight, she was home by 8 p.m. every night. She was also excluded from cleaning the buildings that housed the engineering and tenancy offices. Occasionally, when she would clean those offices, she saw her colleagues rifling through desks and filing cabinets, photocopying documents, and other shady stuff. My wife also saw Louise threaten a soldier with extra duties for not opening doors fast enough. Louise's husband was a senior NCO in the unit. But jobs were hard to find at that time, so my wife was willing to accept a little discomfort to her ethics. However, after a few months, the racial epithets started. It started with a nickname, then morphed into slurs and then rumors about her. They started telling racial jokes without trying to hide it. When my wife complained to the 4 of them that she was uncomfortable, she got called weak and they threatened her employment. My wife told them that she would go to the head office. So she called the head office from work. Stuart from HR dressed down my wife over women's talk, and she needed to thicken her skin and not be too sensitive. My wife countered that she would go to the authorities. Stuart said no laws have been broken, so she should go to the authorities. Good luck. Later that shift, she was fired for attitude. So my wife went to the authorities, just not the police. She went to the Human Rights Commission and to the military base headquarters. She gave both photocopies of her logs. The human rights investigation determined that there was a work environment that tolerated racist behaviors. That garnered an apology and an acknowledgement from Stuart with a smug comment that they will henceforth include a clause about racial sensitivity in their employee paperwork. He even made a comment to my wife that essentially, this was nothing. However, behind the scenes, the base had been doing their own investigation. Some of the people whose desks had been rifled in the tenancy buildings had reported that they suspected they had been snooped through. The dates of some of their reports matched my wife's logs on the date she was there. Louise threatening a soldier was followed up, and it was discovered that Louise's husband had chastised the soldier and arranged for him to do 2 weeks extra duties, a violation of an abuse of authority statute. The contract with the base required 40 hours of service per day. The base pulled the security and key logs showing that work was always done by 8 p.m. The base was paying for 40 hours per day and getting 20 hours service. There was a clause in the cleaning contract that stated that federal government human rights regulations needed to be followed. The results of the commission's investigation determined that they were in violation. Other bases were contacted to see what was going on with this company, and they found out others were having similar issues. As a result, the base broke the contract with cause. It was a 5-year contract broken after the 2nd year. Louise, Donna, Dan, and Tracy were suddenly out of work. The next cleaning company came in. All personnel had to undergo vetting for security. All cleaning was done during the day, preventing people from rifling desks. 40 hours was 40 hours, and cleaners were not authorized to engage soldiers beyond casual, "how are you" conversations. My wife went back to healthcare. However, every once in a while she wonders what Stuart thinks of women's talk now. Edit to clarify a few points. First, thanks for your comments. It makes me realize that even though I think the story is complete enough to tell, the odd detail could have been added to make the story more clear, yet not compromise the identities of the people in the story. I am Canadian. I grew up in a bilingual community, French-English, and my various school systems I attended growing up have had an impact on my spelling, realize, behavior, skeptical, etc. The desk snooping was in the base housing offices. The 4 cleaners all lived in base housing, so they were looking up gossip-worthy material on their neighbors and friends, etc. They were also looking to see what major contracts were coming for house repairs, example, window replacement. It was not classified material. While the four of them lost employment, they were not held accountable. The company that had the contract just laid them off, so they were able to find work again shortly. However, just not as cleaners. Cleaners had a reliability screening to work on the base even prior to this. However, it is as simple as a criminal record check, not much more. After this, the cleaners never worked in an area without supervision and always during the same workday as the people in the offices. The NCO who chastised the soldier was called to task for that. He ended up getting moved a year later, with a bit of a shadow following him. However, it did not last long, and there was no permanent career mark that left. Finally, we were very young. My wife and I are, and were, not the type to rock the boat. I was brand new in the military and did not want to be labeled as a problem soldier. So, we remained quiet for too long. After this, both of us grew our confidence and were able to move on. We don't stay quiet too long when something is not right. Thanks. Rifling desks is a huge security breach. Your wife did the right thing. My question is, what were they photocopying? And who were they selling it to? Depending on the answer, this is actual effing espionage. Since there was already a military investigation ongoing, we'll probably never know. It is always a good idea to document everything. My husband has done that for years and it saved his ass multiple times. I'm in the military. I keep a file of emails called CYA, Cover Your Ass. I've archived literally every email I've ever sent or been sent at my job for just such an occasion. Fortunately, everyone in my company seems to be on the up and up, so I haven't needed anything out of it yet, but you never know. There's no reason to ever delete an email from another person. Precisely. This message will self-destruct. The lot of them are bloody effing lucky they didn't get hit with espionage charges if they were photographing or copying documents. Yeah, what the F? That felt a little missed. As a veteran, that seriously seems a little missed. They should have faced criminal charges. Probably did, wouldn't be advertised. Yes, the military investigation will only be discussed with high brass on need-to-know basis. The public doesn't need to know. Baller, your wife said effing baller. This is awesome. Legit wanted her to bust an espionage ring. OP. No such excitement, just a crew of nosy Parkers snooping for info on their neighbors. That was the best outcome, and she did absolutely nothing wrong by having to take it for the sake of her job or reporting them. The woman's talk gets me, hey? I once complained about a fellow staff member who threatened my safety, and he was clearly very much on drugs at work. He was a driver, driving wasted, and I fell face first into a window and was fearing for my life on the highway, while he sped double the limit and laughed. And when I got told to have him drive me to a meeting and I refused, I got told to get over my personal issues. If I was a man, I wouldn't have gotten that response. Whenever something weird or shady happens at work, I always text someone about it so the police come calling asking why we keep letting porn guy look up porn on our public computers or shady guy look up an ex-coworker. I have in text form when and how it happened. If you've enjoyed the story and would like to hear more, consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. I hope you'll come again soon. Bye for now!